times. We come to item 4 of our interrogatories concerning security. The reason security is the way it is that exclusive list of that constitution puts electricity, puts security, like police, arms and ammunition on that exclusive list. Everything about security is local. It's where you are being attacked that you need to make some response. It's where armed robbers are invading you that you need to work out how to stop them. So as a federation, we must realize that the responsibility for policing ourselves must begin with the federating units. The federal can come and do limited portions of whatever we designate them to do. As long as that constitution is standing and arms and ammunition remain where they are, security is not going to improve by 1 inch. Anybody who is telling you he's going to do anything about security with that constitution standing is a criminal. And some will say, oh, state police. The governors will not bother, the governors will not reject it. The governors will accept it on your behalf. But if you then ask them how they're going to finance, because they'll be happy to be in control of guns. They'll be happy to get some more money for themselves so that but it doesn't solve the problem. We must accept that in a federation, the responsibility for security must be, devolved, must be something that goes from ground up. And so no security is improving if that constitution is standing. We go to the one of pervasive corruption. Corruption has grown so wild that everybody everywhere in the world, Nigeria has become the case study for corruption. Why is corruption the way it is? That same constitution creates massive avenues for corruption and comprehensively protects the potential beneficiaries of corruption by its immunity clause in section 308. There's also another terrible immunity clause contained in section 6, subsection 6D. Let everybody who is listening to this ask any lawyer they can reach, the senior advocates, the professors of law. Section 6, subsection 6D provides a 33-year period of immunity for all of those who brought Nigeria to the destruction it is in now, from 1966 to 1999. And with that immunity there for the foundation of the corruption, we now have another immunity in section 308 for people currently in office. So those who shared Nigeria among themselves as oil block, as the Land Use Act came, they took everybody's land. Go and find out what the title behind Otta Farms, is. The title for the land in Otta Farm. Go and find out who owned the land and how it became the property of the present owners. So the question of corruption is that the Constitution creates massive avenues for corruption. The spare key to the treasury is handed to the president and the governors, and they have immunity in section 308. Section 6, section 6C of the same constitution absolve the government of responsibility towards you, the citizens, so they don't owe you obligation for welfare or security or any of the good things contained in chapter 2. So if they don't owe you any obligation and they have the spare key to the treasury and they have immunity, at what point are you going to get your own share of the social contract? That's why life is the way it is. And the corruption of centralizing the collection of money, whether it's from oil or from ports in Abuja, for people who don't owe you any obligation and who have the spare key to the treasury to take as they like, anybody who says he's going to fight corruption under the 1999 Constitution, tell such a person that Nina said, tell such a person that Tony Nadi said he's a criminal. It doesn't matter who. So corruption is going nowhere. Impunity is not going anywhere until that constitution goes down. You go to the next item where we talked about refineries and petroleum products. The reason we don't have petroleum products for a country that sells 3 million barrels of crude oil every day is simply because refineries are on the exclusive list. What is he doing on the exclusive list? What is there about refining that cannot be undertaken by the federating units or individuals across the length and breadth of Nigeria? Why is it only Dangote that will now be licensed by that federal government that has confiscated the rights of everybody else to say he's the one to refine for all of us? There will be no improvement in the situation. The people talking about subsidy that is organized crime should first tell us why the criminal enterprise called Nigeria should put refineries on the exclusive list. There's no solution to the question of product availability except that consumption goes down, because as long as it's there and refineries remain where they are, we will be buying from the international market processed products at international prices. And the naira that has to now provide that dollar from all of the other damages they've done to the economy, is just going to be struggling. We are now at 700 and something to the dollar. It can only get worse. The solution to that is to bring down that constitution, free all those components in 68 items in the exclusive list so that people can go in and refine the product so it's available. The next item is infrastructure, the roads, the railways, the ports, and all of that. They are all on that exclusive list under that constitution. Unless that constitution goes down, you will be at the mercy of whoever is in Abuja. And so the solution to infrastructure is to dismantle that constitution and this exclusive list so that people can take charge of what they need, whether it's rails or ports or aviation facilities, everything that that can make their society function. That is how other federations of the world function. That is the basis of Nigeria becoming one political union in 1960, because we agreed on the level of autonomy that leaves us with both the responsibility and the assets for being able, and the powers for doing our infrastructure by ourselves, doing our electricity by ourselves, and all the security, by all the kind of things that are now not available by ourselves. That's for infrastructure. Anybody who tells you is going to bring JP Morgan to come and organize how financing can happen with they are telling you trash. They are telling you hogwash. The reason infrastructure is where it is today is because that constitution has all those things on the exclusive list in that constitution. Take down that constitution, in 6 months, you will see infrastructure springing up everywhere. Take down that constitution, in 6 months, you see electricity coming from where it's been locked down for many years. No other thing will solve it. Every other thing is ignorance or dishonest on this subject. We go from that to humongous cost of governance. We are saying that I'm reading these things from how we publish them in Guardian newspaper. We are waiting for the political parties to roll out their stupid manifestos. Those manifestos will be torn to shreds with this information you are seeing now. That is, those things in the constitution that make it impossible for the claims they are making in those manifestos to be realized. And so those that are being deceived, you have a choice to make. You can continue in ignorance and make noise and go in numbers and vote to your damnation, because as you vote, you are saying that you want security to remain the way it is. You are saying that you want infrastructure to remain the way it is. You are saying you want corruption and impunity to remain the way it is. So we go to the next item, humongous cost of governance. Some of the candidates say, oh, they make government more efficient, bring down cost of governance. The reason the cost of governance has become what it's become in Nigeria, where all our income can no longer pay for the bureaucracies we have, is that we have too many governments to finance. We have a federal government with a National Assembly of 109 senators and 360 House members, each of which is paid better than the average president around the world. Each of your senators earn more money than presidents of many of the first world countries, each. And then you come down to the 36 states that Nigeria has been fractured into from 4 regions. we had only 4 regions that were, being financed because the bureaucracies are attached to those 4 regions. Everything is administrative up to village. You could feel the impact of governance in those years that we had only 4 regions. That's the 4 governments we had to finance. We went from 4 governments to 811 governments. Federal government, 36 states, federal capital territory, 774 local government areas. Every month you gather, share 700 billion in Abuja to people who do not owe the citizen any obligation, to citizens who are not accountable to anybody because they have immunity. So how would the rest of the citizens, everybody in that bureaucracy, whether it's police or army or civil servants, all of them put together, do they come to 2 million in number? That means less than 1% of Nigeria's population now have to be serviced by all of what Nigeria earns as a country. That's the summary. And so the cost of governance, anybody who tells you he's going to cut down the cost of governance, maybe because he's going to be wearing 1 shoe and 1 shirt throughout the year, is deceiving you. The costs we see is coming from the bureaucracies associated with financing 811 governments. When we can do away with that and go back to a much lesser number, it could be 8, it could be 10, it could be 6, it could be 4, whatever be the number we agree as the federating units. And then people are going to be, the federating units will be responsible for what they give the center to do. Like we agreed in Lancaster House. Anything outside that is a waste of everybody's time in talking about a reduction of cost in cost of governance. And if people continue to go in convoys of 50 vehicles each, and then people cannot feed in that same country, money to pay teachers and run universities will not be available, you're just deceiving yourself if you think it's by going to another election to bring about somebody who will swear to defend and uphold that bad arrangement that will save the situation. Nothing is going to change in the matter of cost of governance except we bring down that constitution that puts us in 36 state formation. From there, we go to the question of crooked elections and bad leadership. Yes, one of the candidates, Peter Obi, says that the problem with Nigeria is not the constitution. From what you've heard so far, you can see that the constitution of Nigeria, and I say it with emphasis, the unitary constitution of Nigeria is the problem with Nigeria, not one of the problems, is the source of all the other problems, including bad leadership. He says it is bad leadership and not a constitution. How did we come about bad leadership? Other than centralized electoral control, that people will sit in Abuja and coronate whoever they choose, whether as president or as governor or as senator. In a federation in which people are supposed to be dealing, you go to the US, they have the US, we pretend we are copying. They have 50 states. Is there anybody from the state of Arizona that will be organizing elections for people in New York? Or Mexicans who come in and find a way to topple the constitution and then sit in one corner of Washington and be in charge of the oil fields of Texas and all of that? Everything you see upside down in Nigeria is coming from that bad constitutional arrangement. Anybody who tells you otherwise, tell him that Tony Nadi said he's either ignorant, dishonest, or both. Nothing is going to change in terms of the bad leadership outside taking down that constitution that frame the evil we are living with, producing both corruption, infrastructural decay, insecurity, electoral haste, and everything in between, as we have already listed out. And so let nobody talk about bad leadership that is going to cure because he's a pious man. And so these are the things that the NINA's team is getting ready, home and abroad, for the political parties and the candidates as they come with their forces. And let us even look at what they have put out so far. We are being informed by people who are in a position to know that the parties so far have not been able to bring out their manifestos because they can't reconcile those manifestos with these interrogatories. But in the meantime, let us read out what they have put in the public space as what they are coming to do, their agendas. snippets from their manifesto. One of the candidates went to Harvard the other day, 19 points. So let us just read out to us so that we are defining the debate. We are defining the debates that will shape this journey to election, bringing us to where we will, in 2-3 months from now, be deciding whether election is actually the solution to our problem. We are not talking about who will win, because we have said that as long as all the parties subscribe to that 1999 constitution, there's no difference for Ninas for any one of them winning or losing. It's as bad as that. Yes, we know how bad candidate APC is. We know how terrible candidate PDP is. We're also saying that candidate LP, Labour Party, in knowing that this constitution is like this, in saying in the public that the engine of the Nigerian vehicle is knocked, but willing to go with them all to go to renew the life of that constitution, there's no difference between all of them. They subscribe to the same evil, and we're going to end up with the same calamity if any of them emerges. The solution is to get rid of this constitution before we proceed to any election. Let's go to transition now. And so, just to make sure that now that you've heard all of what the reasons for the position Ninas took, Article says, my 5-point plan for Nigeria. He says he will restore Nigeria's unity through equity and social justice and cooperation. That's number one on his 5-point agenda. Restore Nigeria's unity through equity, social justice, and cooperation. Those things cannot be undertaken, cannot be done outside the constitution being taken down. Those things cannot be done under this constitution, no matter how well-intentioned Atiku may be. He says in the second item that he will establish a strong and efficient government that guarantees the safety and security of life and property. You already have heard why security is the way it is. As long as that constitution is there, Atiku is talking trash. He says he will build a strong, resilient and prosperous economy that creates jobs and lifts people out of poverty. Atiku is going to create an economy that does not require electricity to function, because as long as that constitution is there, electricity will not be available, infrastructure will not be available, security will not be available. So which economy is Atiku going to create in the kind of setting we have shared with you, in which there will be no infrastructure or electricity or security that can support any such economy being created in this space? The fourth point is that candidate Atiku says he will promote a true federal system which will provide a strong federal government to guarantee national unity while allowing the federating units to set their own priorities. Falsehood, deceit. This same Atiku sat down with us in 2016, and we showed him that we needed first, going by the contents of the preamble of our constitution, the 1999 so-called constitution, that lied that we, the people, have solemnly and firmly resolved to live as one indivisible union. That's the first thing that has to be settled. How are you going to cure that? What unity can you build? What federal system can you build if you don't allow the owners of the sovereignty, whose sovereignty have been confiscated by this fraudulent constitution, as we see in that preamble? And then you go further in that preamble to say they have therefore made and given unto ourselves the following constitution. How? When? That we agree to be in union with people who owe it a duty of faith to kill us as infidel? That we agree to be in the formation of 36 states in which I am now political minority permanently because some people created 36 states that gave everything to themselves, and then 704 local government areas in which in the National Assembly, the place of decision making, I am now the minority that cannot even raise my issue because of the number of states and local governments that now frame the representation and the sharing of available economic resources. And so it will be hogwash to be talking about doing any federal promote through federal system. The way to promote federal system is to accept that the unitary Nigeria created by the 1999 constitution cannot be the basis of any union at all. And those who pretend that what we are saying does not matter because they think they have the clout to make noise and hire crowd and deceive young people who do not know any better, they are going to find out that those who are fed up with Nigeria do not require their permission to take their sovereignty, to exercise their right to self-determination. Yoruba will be a country of 60 million people. It doesn't matter how much noise Bola Tinubu is able to generate with Olumo, his whoever makes noise for him. It doesn't matter how many people Atiku will rent. It doesn't matter how many people are deceived in the obedient movement into thinking that Obi is the answer to the constitution that is upside down. And so Atiku is not in any position to promote, and we have interrogated him. We are not speculating now. We sat down with him. He knows the truth. He's telling you this lie that is going to promote federal system, which will provide a strong federal government and guarantee national unity. There's no national unity that can come except we go back to the question of, have we agreed to be in union? And if we do agree, on what terms? Those are the two stages of reconstruction that has to happen in the Union of Nigeria, according to the prescriptions of that constitutional force majeure. Go and read the 5 items of prescription, of proposition. We don't have a union right now. If it is on that false claim of we the people submitting our sovereignty according to that constitution, let somebody explain to Atiku, if possible in Fufude, so he can understand it. Finally, he says he will spearhead education reform, so it is driven by innovation, science, and technology. Excuse me, who tells Atiku that I want him to be the one organizing what will come out as my education for me in my space? I want to take charge and take back our people to where we were in the days when the king of Saudi Arabia will come to University Teaching Hospital in Ibadan for his medical care. It wasn't a federal government of the time that built that institution and nurtured it to what it became, the center of excellence, that foreign dignitaries would prefer that medical facility that had been run down now to ramshackle. And same as everything everywhere. Let people take charge and do the best they can. We can't continue in this mediocrity, sinking deeper and deeper. Atiku, you are not in any position to organize my education. My competition should not be Fulani herdsmen and bandit and Gumi and his fellow terrorists. My competition should be by now France or Germany or at least Korea, South Korea. If you look at where we were, Yoruba people knew where they were in 1956, 57, 58, before your independence. Why will it be an article that will now be deciding when they go to school and how they go to school? Or will ASU strike cease because Atiku became president? Let's not continue to insult our intelligence, our collective intelligence in this manner. We know what the problem is. We don't want to solve it. If you press further now, he will say, oh, I have a university, American University in Yola. How does that become the answer to our charge that you are the one preventing us from doing the best we can to emplace education that will produce skills, to emplace healthcare facilities that will provide medical infrastructure that will provide healthcare for our people or housing for our people and all of that. We are saying that the Nigeria that is now organized like an emirate with an emir sitting in Abuja and local chiefs all across, not accountable to us, is not how we're going to get education or healthcare or any of these things you promise in that, what do they call it, manifesto. And so that's for candidate Atiku. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've gone through his 5-point agenda, and we say it's all hogwash. For the same reasons, we go to candidate Tinubu and his APC leadership. I'm counting 7, because for the same reasons. We just listen and see what connections we can make. Item 1, leadership. He says, oh, I will provide transformational leadership that has the ability to unify all Nigeria and lead us to great attainment of shared goals and vision. What is the meaning of transformational leadership in the face of a disputed union, in the face of a disputed constitutional arrangement? That is hogwash. Technology, leverage modern technology for digital transformation. Transformation of what? Why are you the one to do it for me when I can do it for myself in a federation? That's the issue until we resolve the question of whether we have agreed to be in union and the terms of that union. All these other things amount to empty talk. Number 3, say security. You will create conditions that allow citizens to move and transit freely across the country. That is meaningless. We've already shown us why security will not improve. Infrastructure. He said you commence extensive infrastructural development and building of basic foundational services, 24 hours access to electricity, people, business, ultimately improving quality of living. Nonsense. Why are you the one to take charge of my infrastructure? I can generate electricity in the eastern part. If the constitutional shackles are removed, I can do my road from Aba to Port Harcourt, or from Enugu to Port Harcourt. I can do my road from Onitsha to Enugu. And all of what you see, the death traps you see all over the east. I don't have to wait for Abuja. When Emma Obara was running eastern Nigeria, the economy of eastern Nigeria was the reference, the global reference. The Asian tigers came to copy from eastern Nigeria. What changed? It was the constitution that enabled Emma Obara to do all of that changed. It was the constitution that enabled Awolowo to do what he did in western region that changed. It was the constitution that enabled Ahmadu Bello to do what he did in northern Nigeria that changed. And that's why we're where we are. If we're not changing all of that, and somebody sits in one corner to say, oh, I'm coming to do it from the window, such a person is lying. So we tell candidate Tinubu, this is a lie. It will not happen. You know better, because he was part of Nadeko. He became governor from that platform, and then he was there when we were discussing these issues in Pronaco. His present flag, what was it? The one that's present now, Buhari, was part of the Pronaco that went into discussing these issues for 2 years. And so they're all pretending they do not know where the problems are coming from. And they're telling us it is election that will solve the problem. Election will not solve this problem. Election will compound this problem. Election might take us back to where we landed in January of 1966, where everything collapsed on everybody's head because we had a constitutional anomaly. The constitution of Western region that got suspended in 1962, instead of fixing that constitutional dispute, we loaded elections on top of it, and it caught fire. And we landed in January 15 of 1966. We are going there again now. Where are the elders in the land? Where are the elders in this land? To tell our people that we got into the pit in 1966 on account of what we are doing now. That we fell into the same pit 30 years after, in 1993, because we didn't settle that matter and we went into election. 2003, 23 is 30 years from that 1993. Why are there no elders that are honest enough to tell the people that if we proceed in the direction of going to election right now, we will fall into the same pit for the same reasons? And it's the same characters, the same individuals that saw to the happening of the earlier ones that are still dragging us in this journey to nowhere. Number 5 of what Tinubu says is going to do, number 5, he says he's going to, what's it again? Homegrown businesses, build platforms, and platforms that will empower homegrown businesses and all of that. All those the nonsense, I will call it. Education. Deploy initiatives targeted at promoting knowledge and blah, 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 blah. Why are you the one to come to tell me how to do with my education when you have imposed quota system on me by your constitution? I'm not interested. True federation and democratic process. What is the meaning of true federation? Is this something National Assembly will do? Why can't we accept that our federation that we clearly defined is no more, and that we have to go and renegotiate and emplace a new union? Nothing to do with impositions from 1967. Anybody who is hoping that it is by going to National Assembly, like Peter Obi said, like Atiku said, like Tinubu is saying, the restructuring that they had in their manifesto of 2015. What has happened to it? Why will we now trust the ones who failed before when they have not acknowledged their failure? They're actually boasting with that failure. That they brought Buhari that took us from top to bottom, and they're saying they want to carry on from where he stopped. They've not said anything new. They're not engaging the constitution that is the problem. That's for candidate APC. Let's see what he says he's going to do before he went to Harvard. These are the things he put out. Production-centered growth for food security and export, securing and uniting Nigeria, effective legal and institutional reforms, rule of law, corruption, government effectiveness. What rule of law can anybody build in this kind of apartheid constitution? Which law? Somebody should sit these candidates down and explain to them the meaning of what is written into what they are reading out. No rule of law can be anchored on a constitution of master and servant. It's like saying you are going to uphold rule of law in apartheid South Africa before 1990. You are now expressing your own ignorance for the whole world to see. If you want rule of law, you first emplace the basic, the fundamental agreement for union. The constitution is the anchor of all the laws. You cannot have any law that will now become based of rule of. They don't know the meaning of rule of law. They just hear it and they think it's just by shouting it that it becomes. No rule of law is possible under a master servant constitution. We go to the balance of, he says he's going to do leapfrogging. You see, we just copy what we hear in Oxford and Harvard. Leapfrogging Nigeria from oil to fourth industrial revolution. How? Which Nigeria? That Nigeria that is holding me against my will in a union that we ought to have discussed, but which we have not discussed. We're not going to leapfrog anything with you. He says, he said before that he was going to drag, in the interview where they were asking him what will happen with the constitution, he said constitution is not the problem. That is badly, that he's going to drag people as they are shouting and crying. He will drag them. That's the kind of promise that candidate Peter Obi is making in the kind of issues we are raising. We have grave constitutional grievances that had led to war, that had led to all kinds of agitations across the land. And he doesn't want to solve it. He said constitution is not the problem. He says he's going to drag people as they cry and shout to now develop with Nigeria. That Nigeria defined by this constitution is not our project. Let candidate Peter Obi hear it and hear it very clearly. Our concern is for the Nigerians that are trapped here, the ones that are saying they want to leave the union. If we don't stop what we are doing and go to resolve the issues of their grievances, and we say we're going to drag them, we're going to gag them, tie them up, and drag them to where we begin to build that Nigeria that is master union, master servant union under this constitution, it's not going to happen. Finally, he says he's going to expand physical infrastructure through market-driven reforms, unleashing growth, enabling which unleash can you do in a situation of insecurity, in a situation of lack of electricity, in a situation of lack of every basic infrastructure that is required to drive economic whatever. So it's just a lie. It's just a deceit. It's just a pretense. And we have seen in this, interrogatories why under this constitution these things are not going to happen. Say human capital development and all of that, the balance of them, robust foreign policy. Which foreign policy? Which Nigeria? What is the reputation of that Nigeria? You're talking about, things, intangible assets. The people who have to decide if Peter Obi is going to take one line out of this lengthy presentation, let it be that no foreign direct investment will happen until final investment decision is taken. Foreign direct investment, FDI. Oh, he says he will go all over the world and bring people who will do it. Final investment decision, FID. No FDI will happen until there has been an FID, final investment decision. What will drive the reaching of final investment decision are all these things we've been talking about in the last 30 minutes. No investor will come to your space if insecurity is reigning there. And if your constitution is the reason for that insecurity, you are talking to yourself. They're not going to answer you, no matter how much they know you, no matter how much you try to advertise yourself. No final investment decision will be taken in a disputed union. They know that the owners of the sovereignties are saying they are fed up, and you're asking them to come and bring 5 or 10 billion or 50 billion of their dollars of their money to throw into the burning house of Lugard. Let's get serious. No such thing will happen. And so this broadcast is to get everybody prepared, the political parties, in the coming days, when you are now ready with all the manifesto you are trying to doctor. When you're finally done with it, the NINA's team will be waiting for you every step of the way to dismantle those claims and show the people whom you are deceiving now that those things are not going to happen under this constitution. Rather, we should accept that we don't have any union, we don't have any constitution that can make these things happen, and then stop the stupid journey, go to transition like South Africa did with apartheid in 1990 to rework the basis of the union within the paradigm of self-determination for the trapped constituent components. Anything short of that, we can guarantee that it's just going to end in fiasco. That Nigeria that is defined by that 1999 constitution is not our project. The Nigeria defined by the 1999 constitution, the master-servant union imposed by the 1999 constitution, is not our project. You, who is prepared to go to election under it and drag us to preserve that Nigeria and this constitution, you are committing treason against all of us, and you are going to be treated as a traitor who had chosen to work with the enemy at a time your people are struggling to get to safety. I think we drop it there.
We're going to say HBCU, where you perfect your game, and they can go either way.
Right, I got you.
Yeah.
Cut to your right, deal to your left, yeah. Flash is on you, whenever you get ready.
You can look at my hand and did I get anything?
He's too excited about having nothing.
I have been known for my chicanery. I'm going to bid 3, no Trump.
4 cards.
Okay.
If we don't win this, they cheat.
Right, I got you.
Well, this is the winner now. What you got?
She's already
It's the winner. She's already out.
Yeah, she's a.
Where'd that come from? Where'd that green come from?
I don't think you could talk about Black survival in the United States without talking about Black joy. And often that occurs through a kind of world making, creating these spaces or enclaves where Black people can thrive and where we can enjoy each other's company that allow us to feel good about ourselves and good in the world, even if the world isn't good.
Following the overthrow of Reconstruction and the rise of Jim Crow, a rigid system of segregation drew firm boundaries around how African Americans could live, learn, work, and play, circumscribing what W.E.B. Du Bois called a small nation of people. Black people responded to America's brand of apartheid by nurturing a world behind the veil, a nexus of formal and informal spaces created for us and by us. As they played a cutthroat game of bid whist, I talked with some old friends about this hidden world. I wanted to get their thoughts about what it took for our ancestors to maintain a vibrant community despite the pressures of Jim Crow.
When I was growing up, everybody in my sphere was Black. Everybody. My milkman was Black. Our teachers were Black. Our postman was Black. Our doctors were Black. And there was just that kind of sense of everybody in this together for one another.
By the 1930s, the Great Depression had devastated America's economy, and it had brought Black America to its knees. To survive a period defined by economic cataclysm and global war, the Black community used these spaces behind the color line to launch a movement that would dismantle Jim Crow and forever transform America's race relations.